Hey, what's up, all you lovely people? It's a beautiful day here in the Texas Hill Country where I am. I hope it's beautiful where you are. I want to talk to you a little bit today about adaptogens, the good, the bad, the ugly, what they are, how to use them, as well as why I wanted to make this video. I felt it was really important. There's a lot of misinformation going around about adaptogens, and so I wanted to clear a few things up. Um, first of all, what are adaptogens? Adaptogens are a diverse class of herbs, botanicals, that are meant to help restore balance and strengthen the body as a whole without directly throwing other organs or systems out of balance. The common definition of an adaptogen is that it should be safe and non-toxic in therapeutic doses. They should be non-habit forming even when taken over a long period of time. And they're supposed to work non-specifically to increase the body's resistance to stress while helping you to regain a sense of normalcy in the body. And so, they're kind of like a thermostat in that regard. Now, these herbs have been shown clinically to reduce self-reported stress, effects of stress. They can improve mood and energy and clarity and focus. They can improve sleep and strengthen the immune system. They can prevent cellular damage. They can balance the stress response of the adrenal system. The HPA axis, they quiet the mind, increase blood flow to the central nervous system. In fact, some adaptogens such as ginseng and ashwagandha and rhodiola, they can be neuroprotective because they can blunt the impact of cortisol within the central nervous system by reducing neuroinflammation and ultimately encouraging repair. And so, sounds awesome, right? I mean, who doesn't need that right now? Um, Apparently everyone needs it if you believe all the marketing hype you see everywhere, which is the reason why I wanted to make this video, because I keep noticing that the origin story. Well, let me back up for a second. For those of you who don't know me, in full disclosure, I own a company called Astro Botanico, and I make products that coffees and teas that use adaptogens and other botanicals and medicinal mushrooms and stuff. And so, I pay attention and see what other companies and stuff are doing and how they're promoting and advertising. And I read comments and stuff too, like people who use their products. And so I keep noticing that the origin story, and by extension, the sales pitch of virtually every single company that you see advertising mushroom coffee or coffee replacements, it has to do in some form or fashion with trash talking coffee, as though coffee, or rather caffeine, was the big problem. And they talk about it in terms of something like, I broke up with coffee is the popular one, or coffee was ruining my life, or I noticed I was having a hard time getting up in the morning, and it was because of my $47 a day coffee habit. And all the while they're neglecting to tell you that they were working 1,100 hours a week, and they were writing a doctoral thesis and raising 4 kids, and they were staying up late at night, working on their side hustle as a part-time rave DJ and podcaster and social media influencer. And gosh darn it, their $47 a day caffeine habit just wasn't helping them perform the best anymore. And they were tired and wired and groggy and grumpy and anxious and depressed. And then one day they had this, this light bulb moment, this epiphany, to start researching more natural energy alternatives, which then led them to developing their awesome adaptogen and mushroom-based coffee replacement. And then ever since then, they've been kicking ass, right? Cool. But the thing is that it's highly likely that, absent some genetic deficiencies or something, issues where they just can't metabolize caffeine, it's highly likely that caffeine wasn't the problem at all. I mean, using coffee is a problem if your lifestyle looks like that, but it's not coffee's fault you feel like doo-doo, it's yours. The relationship that they should have ended was the one that they had with their toxic lifestyle. Coffee wasn't ruining their life. Their lifestyle was ruining their life. But people being people, we don't like to change, which leads us to finger point at everything else but our own bad decisions. And so then in this case, coffee becomes the scapegoat. And whether it's the cause of jitters and anxiety rather than the liver dysfunction and the inability to metabolize and detox caffeine properly, or, drinking Herculean amounts of coffee to combat overwhelming fatigue rather than going to bed at a decent hour, or the inevitable crash of caffeine withdrawal when they quit due to, this recognized unhealthy dependence on caffeine. And so what steps in magically to save the day? Adaptogens. And so they proudly point to the root word adapt, as in adaptogens help you adapt to stress. Here's the thing that's going to upset some people. When used this way, adaptogens will really just help you continue to make poor choices and probably push you even further into burnout. Because the thing is, adaptogenic herbs aren't meant to be used to push us beyond our limits. If you're worn out from pushing yourself nonstop, the last thing you need is false energy so that you can keep burning yourself out. Applying an adaptogen to someone whose central nervous system is taxed and maxed and vaxxed is like putting racing fuel into a car with a busted head gasket and broken U-joints and busted motor mounts and a leaky radiator and fouled spark plugs and no brakes and underinflated tires with no treads filled with fix-a-flat and no seat belts. That racing fuel will definitely ignite the system, but you're also probably going to crash. The question is, how far down the road will you travel before you do? So what you really need to do is first and foremost address that go, go, go mentality and figure out where you can slow. You see, adaptogens, they're known as tonifying or tonic herbs. And tonifying herbs strengthen the body's processes, including the ones that are pathogenic or the ones that cause dis-ease. And so, these herbs should not be used if you have signs of dis-ease. The point of them is to support normal activity and or recovery rather than help you drive unnatural levels of performance. So the root causes of deficiencies should be assessed and addressed first. And so, unfortunately, despite the definition of adaptogen, there's actually plenty of evidence that shows adaptogens can cause imbalances in the system. But just like I said earlier that we shouldn't be pointing the finger at coffee for what the imbalanced lifestyle and environment caused, I also don't want to blame adaptogens for what their improper use caused, which is really true of pretty much all herbs, right? And that's why I'm addressing it here and making this video. So how can their use be harmful if done improperly? Well, basically by shutting off the alarm bells of your disease, otherwise known as symptoms. And so like masking a nutrient deficiency. And so a great example of this would be like the hallmark fatigue that comes from a B12 deficiency, which would alert the astute practitioner to question and take a closer look at. But by using adaptogens to give you that false energy such that it allows a B12 deficiency to go unnoticed, and then it becomes critical, and then it becomes potentially life-threatening. See what I mean? Likewise, I think too many people confuse adrenal dysfunction with mitochondrial dysfunction. And, again, I see a lot of practitioners do the same thing. If you're deficient in energy, the first best course of action would be to make sure that you're not deficient in nutrients needed for optimal mitochondrial function and ultimately the production of ATP. I mean, this is the batteries of our cells, right? And so if your batteries don't recharge, then you're not going to recharge. If your mitochondria aren't well, you are absolutely going to have fatigue. And in no instance should you be pushing yourself with adaptogens. So, improper use can enable burnout by allowing you to go beyond your limits. And this is especially worrisome for those who are in a serious, chronically debilitated state, which is most people, especially most people I work with right now. Improper use can also mask the symptoms of sleep deprivation. Few things, few things will fudge up your health faster than sleep deprivation. And why do you think it's used as a form of torture? And so why take something to give you energy or focus or put you in a better mood when what you really need is sleep? And so in much the same way that I tell people that taking thyroid hormone without addressing the things that led to thyroid disease, it simply just masks the symptoms of thyroid dysfunction while still allowing the disease process to continue running in the background. Improper adaptogen use can allow the progression of adrenal dysfunction and insulin resistance and immunodeficiency to just continue running silently and unabated in the background. And then one day, life shits the bed, and then the wheels fall off. And so basically with improper use, it's quite possible that some adaptogens will give you a boost simply to allow you to continue burning out. And so if you're experiencing burnout, whether physically, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually, you should not be self-treating with adaptogens. Instead, they should be used as a next step after, or at the very least concurrently, while working towards optimizing your lifestyle and environment, and then addressing the fundamentals, which is something I talk about all the time. So back to our car analogy, think of it as you're going in and actually fixing the car so that you can cruise down the highway with greater ease and efficiency before pulling in and filling up with high octane fuel for the times that you want to boogie on down the road. So what would that look like, like in our body? Well, so like I tell my clients, before taking herbs, try eating more vegetables first. Consume organ meats weekly. Drink plenty of water. Sleep. Sunlight on the bare eyeballs in the morning and on your bare skin during the afternoon is one of the best nutrients that you can receive. Breath work is fantastic. These are all literally some of the best ways to increase your resistance and resiliency to stress. Now, I'm not saying you have to go for months and months of making changes before taking anything, but do these things and consider adding in some herbal remedies to help rebuild and restore and revitalize the central nervous system. But don't use them instead of. And here's the big old but, right? When you do use them in conjunction with a lifestyle optimization program or as part of a healing protocol, they should be used initially in small to moderate doses while paying attention to signs of overstimulation. And then if everything's good after a few days, then you can increase the dose. And then, one of the things about adaptogens is that they tend to work better the longer you take them. And so, and then during that time, it's also helpful if they're used as an adjunct to other botanical treatments, especially in a deficient person, to help motivate them and assist them with the fatigue that can often accompany a lifestyle optimization program, especially if there's like eliminating caffeine or undertaking dietary changes and things like that. However, this doesn't mean that you should plan on taking them for the rest of your life simply because life is stressful. I mean, you should consider taking regular breaks from using them to reevaluate whether you still need to use them. If you still need to take 10 or 15 adaptogens a day just to function after months and months of taking them, then I would start looking a little bit better at your lifestyle and environment and see where you can whittle away some more stressors, because you shouldn't need that many for that long. Our bodies are remarkably resilient, and believe it or not, none of us were born with an ashwagandha or rhodiola or ginseng deficiency. But as we live, we absolutely develop nutrient deficiencies and hormone deficiencies and sleep deficiencies and sunlight deficiencies. So again, look, I formulate and sell products containing adaptogens. So this entire video may turn out to be a spectacularly stupid idea from a sales standpoint, but I have no idea, no desire to make money off of another person's suffering or ignorance on a subject. So I just want to be really clear. There's nothing inherently wrong with adaptogens. They're brilliant and lovely and wonderful. My problem is with the how and why and when they're being used. And it's vitally important to me to make sure I've done my part educating you on it. And quite frankly, I'm tired of seeing the bullshit, seeing people fall for the bullshit advertising. I mean, if a company has to bullshit their way to increase their sales, then their product sucks, in my opinion. And so, with all that said, in my next video, I will discuss specific adaptogens a little bit more, but primarily in context of another class of herbs that I want to introduce you to that I think is even more critical and actually better suited and more appropriate for today's chronically stressed modern human. It's not one that most people really hear about. And yes, I do use them in my astrobotanical products with great efficacy. And yes, there are a few companies who are also using this class of herbs in some of their products. But again, they're not using these same particular ones. And the ones they are using, they're using in a way that, in my opinion, is neither totally called for nor completely honest. And then from there, I will begin a series of short videos breaking down individual herbs that I use in my products, go into them in a little bit more detail. So with that said, I'll see you in the next video. Any questions or comments that you have about this one, fire away down below. And otherwise, have a wonderful day.